Just want to quickly mark the markets before we move forward because we've seen a significant cool off of roughly about 2% from the top. We're still clinging by with that 9400 mark. The breath is still going strong, but we've fallen 2% from the top of the day. Under pressure today for Nestle, which is down about 3% right now. The Sun TV, Tata Consumer, Torrent Pharma, Apollo Hospitals from the liquid universe, which are also seeing some pressure come by. And within the Nifty, you're also seeing Reliance, which is underperforming by about 1% percent. You've also got Bharti, which is just about minutely in the red, and some underperformance as such from IT and pharmaceuticals as well, which have been the winners of late. Still going strong for an L&T, for an ICICI Bank, for Ultratech Cement, HDFC Bank still holding good, and Axis Bank as well, powering ahead by 4.6% as we speak. So it's a tentative start. You are seeing some of those gap up gains getting sold into as we speak. But let's welcome on board our next guest on the show. We have with us Ajay Kanwal, MD and CEO of Jana Small Finance Bank, joining in on the show right now. Ajay, hi, good morning. Good to speak with you. You know, just analyzing the nitty-gritties of the package and wondering what the contours would look like. But just taking a leaf from what the Prime Minister announced last evening, it seems that the package is going to focus on farmers, MSMEs, as well as cottage industry. Given that you are linked very closely to these segments itself, how exactly do you see banks such as yours benefiting from what could be announced by the Finance Minister today?
Thanks, Abba. I think a few things. First is, when I started watching, I thought I'm going to hear more about the lockdown. Actually, I felt like it was a knockdown. Really getting a 10% package on GDP was something unexpected. And I think in many ways, he's defined what we should do both tactically, which is how to answer the crisis, but also what we should do strategically as a country. India finding its right spot in the world and really what reforms need to get there. Coming specifically to agriculture and MSME and small businesses, clearly there is a need for us to make sure there are reforms which help both the productivity end as well as help in the supply chain so that there is clear positivity at both the consumer and the producing end. On the MSME, clearly, there is a lot of opportunity for growth to happen. And if some of the reforms do happen, I think there will be a growth there too. So for us, it's a very positive move. We'll wait for the details. But I think more important for us is, I think it's a big strategic call the Prime Minister has taken.
Right. Just wanted to also get in your take then. The Prime Minister, said that this package is going to focus on farmers, MSMEs, as well as the cottage industry. Given that you're very closely linked to these segments, how much of a benefit do you see? Do you think that we will see demand gradually increase once the lockdown is lifted? And what is it that you would like to hear, on this front for MSMEs as well as for the farmers, etc.?
Yeah, listen, there will certainly be a lift in demand when the lockdown is lifted. I'm in Bangalore and I can tell you that most of the contract labor, unorganized sector is slowly coming back. And we're talking of days after, people have started coming to office. So lift in demand is certainly going to be there. I think in terms of how much lift will all depend on how the package turns out. Like I said, the tactical side would be giving some incentive for, lending to happen quickly so that people who have either have a challenge on working capital, either had a challenge really on, trying to expand, and people will be nervous given that, what is the state of your business in the future? So should I give you money or not? I think some form of guarantee to help the small businesses will be helpful. Similarly, in the agri side, we haven't seen really a drop down in any amount of positivity of either repayment. Certainly in the dairy farming sector, even in the small farmers. So the rural side has been pretty good. But hearing what will come in terms of supply chain, in terms of more cold storages, expansion of business, any export promotion, there will be certainly the whole impact on the whole chain that will happen. What we really, like I said, short term is about getting liquidity in, getting guarantees in, and making sure that things get back to normal. I think there is a more deeper reform which the Prime Minister had in mind. And I think that will be probably phase 2, which we'll see later in the year.
Okay, and how has been your collection efficiency so far? Can we see further moratorium to borrowers by the RBI, and that could that ultimately impact the collections and hit the industry significantly?
So the first thing that I would like to say, Aisha, is that the microfinance borrowers are the most crisis-ready borrowers. Simple example, you heard Mr. Ghosh earlier. You take Orissa, we had this funny cyclone, and 2 months, 3 months, farms were destroyed, people lost their homes, all temporary shelters. But Orissa microfinance business very much back to normal and things moved on. So handling a 2-3 months natural disaster is something that the microfinance industry is used to, both at the customer end and at the business end. So it coming back to normal is something that has been experienced several times. So if you take an urban moment, you can remember Chennai floods, 99 point some percent collections came down to 70%, shot back to 99% after 2 months. So moratorium has been given to all customers, and I think that's a great move because you really don't want customers to take a risk during this crisis when they're worried about their health. Last thing you want them is to take any risk, which when they're trying to pay back would have been very risky for our employees too, because going out to collect would have been a pain. So I think to that extent, the 3 months moratorium has been really perfect in a way. I would assume and I would hope that wherever there are green districts, we can start collecting and doing business as normal from next month. And orange and red will probably need more time to get up. So pretty much like a natural disaster answer, where it's fine, business begins. Where it's not fine, we give it more time. That would be the right approach. I think the hope and the wish is that we all get back to business as usual as quickly as we can. But at no point should we forget that the crisis of health is not over. So it'll be a real tough balance between making sure that employees are safe, customers are safe, at the same time trying to get up and be a normal economy. So it's not going to be one answer which fits all districts or all states. And it'll be persistently trying to balance health and business as we go forward.
Okay, there are concerns on deteriorating borrower risk profile. Are you factoring in any higher MPAs or increase in provisioning as going forward?
I think two parts to it, One is if we've just finished our annual results. Our SMA 0 to SMA 2, which is the most likely customers will probably go to NPA over the next 3 months, starting post-moratorium, is about 1.5% of the book. So just as a matter of prudence, we have taken full provision on it, which is based on what we expect it to flow. So that's something that we will certainly do. My expectation really is you will see a lift in NPA over the next 2-3 months, nothing significant. I don't think so really people have lost their livelihoods in any serious way. I do think the unorganized sector will be back. I can see it already in Bangalore where things are moving on. But we'll take a short-term blip and then it'll again come down. We've seen that in several natural disasters in the past. So I think we'll have to do a little bit of provisioning when we open up, and then we'll do a right back as things move on. I think on the small business in the MSME sector, there'll be some specific sectors which will get impacted, not just for the next few months, but probably for the longer term, where they have to rethink their business models, rethink what they need to do in terms of their cost. That'll be a minority of the proportion of businesses. That certainly will need some elevation of provisioning, but majority of the sector of both small and micro MSME businesses will be fine. We did a study last month of, if I had to lend today morning, how many of my MSME sectors are just ready for lending, which means they're not in the red zones. They don't have employees coming from different states. They can actually start their business. They have customers. They're not highly indebted. The number came to about 75 to 80%. So again, there will be a proportion which is impacted. We'll have to give them time to work it through, and we'll work through the issues with them. but the majority are unimpacted and certainly ready to probably, at least stabilize the business and then expand.
Okay, fantastic.